boxing fans. Fury and Dillian Whyte wrapped up the way that pretty much everybody, expected it was going to. Tyson Fury, there's a lot of controversy on this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dillian Whyte files for an appeal. If you didn't bother watching the fight because it was a boring set of fights as expected, it just was. It was all for the UK fans, clearly. But if you didn't watch the fight, I'm only going to talk about Fury and Dillian Whyte. So, this was a boring fight. It only lasted 6 rounds, but it was a boring fight for the 6 because what you had was essentially Fury boxing off the back foot as we expected he would do. He did not fight Dillian Whyte the way he fought Wilder in the second fight. He fought Dillian Whyte a smart fight. Arguably boxing off the back is smart against the power fighter. And Whyte does have power. So, pretty much Fury was landing at will. I would argue on the points it was not close. I don't think Dillian won a round. It didn't seem like Dillian was able to figure out how to get past the jab all night long. And what was happening is that Dillian was eating 2 pieces, like on a regular basis. Then the sequence in the 6th. So you're dealing with this boring fight, and the fans were kind of restless a little bit. Not like angry, but just like, okay, this is kind of not what we expected because Fury had swore up and down he was going to go to war. And you can blame Dillian for that because Dillian didn't engage. He didn't really engage at all. It seemed like he didn't really want to be there. Fury in the 6th round, he's doing the same box off the back foot. He's luring Dillian in. Dillian's coming forward. Fury's boxing backwards. Fury feints off a jab to force Dillian to react and then lands a picture-perfect uppercut right on the face. Now, the problem with this sequence is he landed the uppercut. It was square on the face. The problem is Tyson then pushes Dillian down. He didn't go down off the punch. He went down off of Tyson's push. And I think that may create some smoke for Dillian to say, no, he pushed me down. I wasn't knocked down. I didn't go down off the punch. I went down off the push. I think the reason the ref, and I think he made a good call, ultimately Dillian gets to his feet like at 6. And ref says, hey, come to me. Dillian goes to him, but then he stumbles a little bit into the ropes and the ref waves it off. And I think the ref just said, you're clearly not stable and you're clearly wobbly. It was a brutal shot. I saw you eat it. So even if he did push you, it wouldn't have mattered. You probably would have either clinched and you would have got seriously hurt if the fight had been allowed to continue. So I'm saying that I think it was a good stoppage, but I wouldn't be surprised if some smoke was raised because he was pushed down, not actually punched down. There's no way to know 100%, but I thought it was a really bizarre sequence there at the end. Anyway, Tyson Fury did what we expected him to do, which is to knock out Dillian Whyte in 6 rounds. Tyson Fury has claimed he's going to retire after the Dillian Whyte fight, but then apparently he was talking to Ngannou afterwards, talking about getting to fight him next. So we don't know if that's a MMA fight or going to boxing or going back to WWE because he was in WWE for a minute, was Fury. Of course, John Fury says, no, it's crap. He's not going to retire. We'll have to wait and see. Unfortunately, since Usyk now has said he's not going to be fighting in Ukraine and he's ready and he's training for the Joshua fight, if Fury does retire, it would, of course, vacate the WBC. It would not vacate Lineal. So if it vacates the WBC, you could end up with Wilder back in the mix because that makes him eligible to contend for it because Wilder is now the #1 guy for WBC given how Whyte was taken out here. So Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte ends in 6 with a knockout, uppercut knockout. I personally don't think it was worth watching the event at all. And the main event fight, I don't think it was worth the price. Even when the uppercut happened and the knockout occurred, people started filing out because it's like, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time. And then the moment the uppercut happens, you saw people just start filing out. So they were just waiting for what they knew was happening. I personally don't think it was worth the time. I think it was a waste of a fight. And people were kind of overrating Dillian Whyte. I don't know why, because it was clear. Now, what we also learned, though, in all fairness, we had to learn, or some people, I know there's people on NSB and others don't get this, but we learned that, as I said, Deontay Wilder is significantly strong. He beats everybody not named Tyson Fury. And this should be clear. With the way that Tyson Fury is able to break guys down, the fact that Wilder was able to take Tyson's best stuff, and it ultimately took 3 fights before Fury could keep Wilder down, tells you how tough Wilder is, how much heart he has, but also how strong the man is. Dillian couldn't lay a dent on this man at all. Like, nobody has ever been able to dent Tyson Fury like Wilder has. Even the guys that have dropped Fury didn't do as much damage as Wilder has done over the 3 fights. And Tyson Fury is still able to perform at a top level, and Dillian Whyte gets taken out in 6, where Wilder went 3 fights worth. Clearly, Deontay Wilder is stronger than he's giving credit for, and he's got more heart than he's given credit for, and I think we need to acknowledge that, and hopefully this performance will get people to understand. Wilder's not a quitter, Wilder's tough as hell, and Wilder's got heart for days for being able to last on that onslaught that he took and the beating he took, and he was still throwing at the very end. Whereas Dillian Whyte, it seemed like he just wasn't trying. It seemed like his heart really wasn't in this fight.